Hey, thanks so much for joining. I wanted to today talk about a topic that I just addressed with a client, and I felt like it was super relevant to pretty much everyone. If you've ever had a conflict or have had to have a challenging conversation, I felt like these techniques could be very useful to you, as I felt like they were useful to my client. And I have to say, they were useful to me way back when I used to have challenging conversations. No, every day. I have challenging conversations every day. And so these techniques still prove to be useful to me. So, challenging conversations, we can be having a challenging conversation at our work. We could be having one in our personal life. We could be having one of each every single day. So let's get right to it. What are some techniques that can help you? The first technique that I want to share with you is what I call ownership language. And when I say ownership language, I am borrowing directly from Gestalt therapy and the work that I've done in Gestalt therapy, the training. Thank you so much, Dorothy Charles, my teacher. And I learned all about ownership language. And ownership language just simply means that you own your experience for something. And the power of ownership language is one, it brings it into your sphere of experience. It brings it into the area in which you are an expert. So we can communicate something very confidently when we use ownership language because we're speaking about our experience. It's also a way to share something that might feel challenging to share without using shaming and blaming language, which would be about you. You did this to me. This, when you did this, you shouldn't have, and you weren't supposed to. And I think you should do better next time. That's a whole bunch of blaming language, and it doesn't work. It doesn't help us to achieve our goals. So instead, we use ownership language. We use pronouns such as I, um, mine, my. We can use phrases such as from my perspective, in my experience, from my point of view, what I believe happened, how I feel, what I think. Whenever we use the pronoun I, we're using ownership language for sure. And it's helping us to express ourselves from a place of truth because we have to speak about our truth if we're saying I. And and we're saying it in a way that really no one can dispute because we're owning that this is true for ourselves. So it can feel less invasive into someone else's space, and it can be irrefutable because it's your experience. So the first technique here in having a challenging conversation is speaking from your point of view, using ownership language. From my perspective, this is what happened. From my perspective, this is what I feel. From my perspective, this is what I feel I need to say. The more eyes you get in there, the more you really start to own your own experience, and the other person probably will be able to listen to you. The second technique that I teach people to help them to have challenging conversations or communicate challenging messages is to communicate what they're trying to say, maybe describing an experience they had with the other person in as clean, direct, and objective language as possible. Objective being the opposite of subjective. So if it's subjective, I might say, you did something really mean to me and it wasn't right. So I'm kind of putting a subjective emotion and analysis on it. Whereas if remain really objective, you might think about describing the situation as if a camera just took a video of it or took a picture of it. How would you describe the situation if you were just kind of witnessing the documentation of it? And it might sound a little bit more like, I felt hurt when you spoke these words to me, and then you didn't call me for 3 months. So try to keep your description of what happened that hurt you or whatever your emotional reaction might have been to as objective and succinct language as possible. The third thing that you can think about when you are having a challenging conversation is to ask yourself, what do you want the other person to do? Because you're bringing up this situation and maybe sharing some of your feelings or emotions about it. Ask yourself, do I want to just communicate a message about this? Um, I felt hurt when you did this, and that's it. And for your own integrity, for you to live in alignment with yourself, you feel that you need to communicate this message? Or do you want the other person to do something about it? If so, ask yourself, what action do I want the other person to take? Or maybe in some situations, you want yourself to take an action. So be clear about that. So once you have used ownership language, describe the situation in as objective a language as possible, then articulate the action that you want to take place. So if there's no action that you want to have take place, then you can say, and I simply wanted to share that with you. That's it. No need for any follow up after that. Um, if you want an action to take place, you can use the language, my request for you is that you share with me what your perspective was, or that you don't do this one action again. So, first identifying if you just want to share this message or if you actually want the other person to take an action. And then, if so, you want the other person to take an action, then communicate the action you want that other person to take. I hope this helps. Just a word of encouragement. Having challenging conversations, sharing about a challenging experience or how you feel about a challenging experience is not easy. This is not going to feel good. It's not going to feel fun. It's not going to feel like juicy and like, the two of you evolved through it. Well, maybe you will feel like you evolved. But my point is that this type of dialogue is not supposed to feel good. Besides the satisfaction of clearly communicating something that is on your heart that can feel satisfying. And even though it doesn't feel very good, the 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 suggestion here is that you take the action anyway. So speak your words anyway, even if you feel flooded by nerves and anxiety, even if you feel flooded by fear, even if you feel flooded by sadness, feel the feelings and take the actions. Speak the words, speak your words anyway. And by doing this, you'll have moved the ball forward. Hope this helps. Thanks so much. Let me know in the comments below if this resonates with you, if you're able to use some of these techniques, what else you want to hear about. Thanks again for joining, and I'll see you next time.